on Get Down to Business, the show that's all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And we always talk about professionals and how professionals can improve their skills. That's why I'm thrilled to be joined across this glass window by producer Debbie, a.k.a. Debbie Schreiner. Debbie, thanks for taking the time to talk with me today.
I'm very happy to, Shalom. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Debbie, you across from you hear from dozens and dozens and dozens of radio hosts that most are pretty polished in how they present themselves, but really all of our listeners are all presenting every day, every minute, every hour. When you have meetings and when you're sitting across from somebody, you're making an impression. How do you make a good first impression?
Well, I would say to be yourself, to be genuine, to as far as a radio program goes, you know, you've really done a great job of this, is being conversational and warm with your guests, you know, putting them at ease and making them just feel like they can have a great conversation.
So it's not about giving a speech and grandstanding every time and speaking down. It's more about a conversation. That's the shows that you've seen have work well.
Yes, definitely. You know, that's enjoyable. You think about maybe a high school professor that you had who might have gone on and on and on, and it's just the students will start to tune out, right? But if it's engaging and you have that interaction with your guests or, you know, or people who might be calling into your show, that's much more engaging.
Do you think that it's okay to wing a conversation, just to say, go with the flow, it's all going to work out, it's going to be okay, we'll find stuff to talk about? Or do you think preparation lends itself better to whether it's a radio show or even a meeting out for coffee?
That's a good question. I think there are benefits to both. Kind of saying we're going to let the conversation go wherever it goes, because sometimes you can find really interesting things that might not have come up if you planned everything out. On the other hand, I think it's also good to have an idea of what you want to talk about and to just go over that, whether it's a meeting or whether it's a radio program, to say, here are some of the things that we want to cover.
Debbie, do you follow current events a lot?
I do.
So I think, my opinion, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is that current events are always a great thing to talk about. You want to be very careful politically. You know, you never want to anger or alienate somebody. You never know where they stand on an issue. But I also follow religiously, the news, what's going on. And often in sitting down for coffee, which I do many, 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 many times a day, I'll talk about something and it turns into a conversation. We find common interests and you build a relationship. It is all about relationship building, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you build that relationship with someone. Oftentimes when you kind of go beyond just this is my job, this is what I do, and you actually get to know someone and their likes and their interests, it can form a better bond with that person, for sure.
So what we're talking again with producer Debbie Schreiner. Debbie, you follow current events. We just talked about that. What are the things that interest you? You hear about IRS radio. You hear about business. You hear about religion. You hear about a lot of things. A lot of people come through the studio, and we always say what happens in Studio C stays in Studio C, right?
That's true.
What are the things that fascinate you?
Oh, things that fascinate me are, world events, for sure, things going on in the world, and also the things that people are drawn to as far as, social media, how something can just, that really isn't very important, can just be blown out of proportion and become something that everyone is focused on. I find that humorous.
So do you have any idea what your I wouldn't say the best show, because every radio host is a great radio host and every show is a great show. Do you have any idea what was the most, I guess, listened to or most controversial or most discussed topic in Studio C now that you've been doing this for a long time?
Most listened to or most discussed. There's a program that has on a wide array of guests. It's called Business Insanity Talk Radio. And Barry Moltz, the host, has had on like a former CEO of Apple and all different kinds of guests. So I find that show interesting very often as I'm recording it.
Well, once again, we're talking with Debbie Schreiner, of the producer here in Studio C at AM 560, The Answer. Best advice is obviously to be yourself. I really like that. I think it's important. I try to be myself, and this show is all about having conversation. So, Debbie, appreciate the time, appreciate the advice, and thanks for all that you do. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Get Down to Business is powered by Tandem HR, your solution center. You can find them at tandemhr.com. or call 630-928-0510. You can also email them, simplify@tandemhr.com. Once again, that phone number, 630-928-0510. And you know what, Debbie, one more thing. I almost forgot the big controversy about the dress. We just talked about that. So what do you see when you look at a picture?
I saw the white and the gold when I looked at it. But I had many friends who saw the blue and black.
Interesting. I saw the white and the gold as well. It's interesting. And I know you have a song. We don't have time for it, but you could probably get the podcast of the IRS Radio Hour. And I know you shared some pearls of wisdom with them. So once again, thanks, Debbie. Get Down to Business is brought to you in part by Everett Wealth Solutions, a registered investment advisor and financial planning firm, a fiduciary advisor that helps you create your personal wealth. You can find them at everettwealthsolutions.com or call 708-771-7777. Get on my website, shalomklein.com, and you can download podcasts from this show and find out who's going to be on next week, Sundays at 6 p.m.